Well, hello everyone, Dog Walker Dave here. Today on the channel, I'm going to give my review of the Apple Watch Ultra from the perspective of an ultra runner and just generally someone who likes to get outside as much as possible, hiking, trail running, and the list goes on. So what I'm going to attempt to do is give you a bit of a different perspective. I'm just going to straight up tell you that I will not mention any other GPS sport watches. I am going to specifically talk about the Apple Watch. There are many reviewers out there, and they always want to compare Apple Watch, or any watch for that matter, to another device. I am not going to do that at all in this review. I'm just going to strictly talk about my experience with an Apple Watch, and now obviously onto the Ultra, but I've also had in the past the Series 3, the Series 4, the Series 5, the Series 7, and finally Apple has catered to something that I can get on board with. And why I'm telling you all this is that I know if I mention other units, everybody in the comments, and rightly so, they would be saying, well, how come you can't compare it to this device that has this battery life, or this device that has this mapping, and all this kind of stuff. And I agree with everyone, but I'm just going to give you my take on using the Apple Watch itself and the Ultraverse. I'm also not going to go over all the different specs of the device. If you've watched any videos on YouTube or go on the Apple website, you can see all the things about the 2000 nit brightness and the list goes on. I'm just going to go over a couple of things that I really like about the Apple Watch Ultra. And I'm going to give a couple of things that I think could be improved because, in my opinion, no device is perfect. There's always going to be a trade-off. So let's start with the positives. Number one, the sapphire crystal. This is a must now for me. I'm the type of person who kind of goes off trail every once in a while, and I am very hard on a watch. In my previous Apple Watches, I had to baby those things like crazy because they had the mineral glass, and Apple says that's the toughest glass ever, and I call bullshit because anytime that I would take it and hit it against the door and be off trail and get scratched, I scratched the screen on it. And for me, that's something that I don't really like. I want to have a screen that's basically bulletproof. So with the Ultra, you now have the sapphire screen, which it's not 100% scratch proof, but it is as close as you can get to a scratch proof display. And to add to that, the case is made of titanium, and it is raised, as you probably have seen on any of the reviews out there, it is raised around the outside, so you don't have to worry about the edges like you would on Series 7 or 8 or whatever version you have. To add to the list of things that I like about the watch, the battery life, Apple claims 36 hours with about an hour of activity. I actually did my first test on it. It lasted 2 full days, just under 48 hours, and that is with LTE running in the background and always on display. I know if I turn those off, I would get not a ton more. I'm not going to get 7 days or anything like that out of it, but I will get more out of that watch. Apple has currently their low power mode for workouts, which extends the battery life, and they're coming up with a firmware tweak later on this year that will get you much more battery life than you currently have. So is this a watch that you could go a week without charging? No, not at all. You should be able to go at least a couple of days as long as you turn off the always on display and if you don't have LTE running in the background. So I find, especially in this area where I live, there's a couple of really bad zones for lack of cell service, or I shouldn't say lack of cell service, but really poor cell service. And I even noticed with my phone or my wife's phone or any phones in this area, they just die because your device is constantly looking for that cell signal and it just kills the battery. I also like having the larger display. 49 millimeters, I've come from larger watches in the past. Some people say that, yeah, it's big and bulky, but I kind of like that, especially at my age where my eyesight's not that great. And I like having the larger display. It makes it a lot easier to see text. I haven't tested the Siren Note, but I think that will come in handy if I'm out in the mountains, just in case of emergency. In fact, I know it will come in handy in case of emergency. I hope to never have to use it, to be quite honest. The action button on the side is a nice addition because now, well, you can actually with the OS 9 update on other Apple Watches, but you can now take a workout and you can hit both buttons at the same time to pause a workout. That's with the built-in Apple workouts. And that's a nice thing to have because touch displays On devices, I'm not a big fan of touch displays, but having that extra button on the side is quite handy. The only thing I will add to that as a negative is that Apple claims that they're coming up with additional functions for that extra button, the action button on the side. I'll wait to see what they have to come up with. Because if you can map it to do other things, that would be a great feature to have. Even something like stopping a workout. Simple as that. Hit the action button if you're already doing a workout. And the last positive about Apple Watch is that it's a smartwatch. I can't tell you how nice it is to have a device with LTE connectivity, going for a run, and in the middle of my run, our youngest daughter, who's 20 now, calls up while I'm on a run and says, "Dad, where are you?" "I'm out for a run, Grace." "Can you get me a Slurpee on your way home?" "Yeah, I guess sure." It's nice to be able to have. I can also turn that off, of course, and just completely ignore my daughter. And another instance where it's nice to have an Apple Watch is that a lot of times I think of ideas, think of things to remember because I have squirrel brain. I'm out for a run. I go, "Oh yeah, I gotta remember to do this. Hey Siri, remind me to feed the dog later on," or whatever it happens to be. That's a nice thing to have. I didn't have that with any of my previous watches, that ability to just do a dictation into a reminder app or anything like that. So that is a nice thing to have. Now everyone, it's not all beautiful fall colors and rainbows and sunshine. There are a couple things about this watch that I feel need to be improved. Number one, with the firmware/software updates, hardware is there, but I think that they have to somehow get the low power mode when you're doing a workout so that you can sample GPS and heart rate less frequently. I'm not sure what they have up their sleeve, but they do have the resources to be able to pull something like that off so that you can get quite a bit more time with the watch in GPS mode. Speaking of the battery, most people who reply in the comments of videos that I've watched on any type of GPS device say, I want to have a battery that will last a month, and I completely get where they're coming from. But the average person does not need a GPS activity lasting longer than roughly 20-24 hours. An ultra marathon. Not many people in the world actually need anything more than that. I am not the type of person that's going to go out and do a 200-mile run because I like my sleep too much. I am training for a 100-mile one for next year, and by this time next year, I have a feeling that this will be more than enough battery to carry me through that 24-hour run. Now, there are two other things that I'd like to mention that are shortcomings with the Apple Watch. The first one is the ability to map. Now, I know with Apple and all of the resources that they have a whole map system. You should be able to download a map onto this device. The hardware is there. I have a feeling over the next while, whether it be a year from now, I'm not sure, who knows with Apple, but you should be able to download a GPX file onto this device. Now, I found a workaround for it, and I've had this app on previous Apple Watches. It's called Work Outdoors. Work Outdoors is a fantastic app, and you can actually download a GPX file onto the device, and you can show so many different metrics for running, hiking, cycling. That's not even funny. There's literally over 200 different things that you can display on the watch. Obviously not all at once. That's kind of silly. And the second thing is if you don't want to go out and spend $8 or $10, whatever the Work Outdoors app is, Apple should have better metrics for running, cycling, swimming. The metrics that you have are relatively limited. Almost everybody, that's good enough for almost everybody, but there are some hardcore people out there that like to see more. If Apple could have some kind of web interface instead of looking on your phone or just looking on your device, I think that would be a fantastic addition. And that's only because you have a bigger screen that you'd be able to see all the different metrics of your workout, whatever workout that may be. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the Apple Watch Ultra. A couple of things. Is it going to make me a better runner? No. Is it going to get me out the door more often? No. Is it a must-have? No. Is it a nice-to-have? Yes. There's obviously a difference between a want and a need. This would be a want. It is not a need, but neither is any other sport GPS watch. Very few people on the planet actually need to have some of the devices that are out there that can do all of these different things. This is just something that I really like the design of it. I like the Apple ecosystem, bit of an Apple fanboy, and this will suit me well over the next whatever amount of time until I decide that, oh, another shiny object, I better go get something else. No, I can't do that because my wife, that's actually going to kill me, I think. Thanks for watching, everyone. Consider hitting that subscribe button. I know it's kind of late to ask that, but hey, hit that subscribe button if you feel that this was useful and or entertaining. And as I say in every single one of my videos, or at least I try, get outside, everyone.